When I asked last week for suggestions on what to play, more than one of you suggested games from Brøderbund software. Specifically, I got requests for Karateka and Choplifter. I've decided to take that idea and twist it a little bit, and instead take you to the game that actually launched Brøderbund software, long before Karateka was even an idea. I'm going to introduce you to Galactic Empire, one of the first 4X games published way back in 1980. The term 4X actually wasn't coined until 1993. It was used to describe a fantastic space strategy game, Master of Orion. 4X games, the X's stand for Explore, Expand, Exploit, and Exterminate, are galaxy-spanning games where you conquer and colonize distant planets. They are, not to put too fine a point on it, pretty problematic. Master of Orion was not the first game of this type. Most people who trace the history back would cite the earliest influences as being some combination of Sid Meier's Civilization, Reach for the Stars, VGA Planets, and Spaceward Ho! I'd like to argue there's a more obvious antecedent, although it's a game that very few people have played. The true genesis of this genre was also the genesis of one of the most successful game companies of the 1980s, Brøderbund. Doug Carlson, a practicing lawyer, wrote Galactic Empire for the TRS-80 in 1979. It was a clever and engaging game and still very playable even today. That game was one of 4, collectively referred to as the Galactic Saga. This was Brøderbund's first game. So, before Choplifter, before Karateka, before Prince of Persia, before Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, there was Galactic Empire. I never had the manual for Galactic Empire because, like most 10-year-olds in 1980, I pirated it. Sorry, Mr. Carlson, I didn't know any better. If you track down the manual, you'll find the game takes place in the star cluster RS-232, in a group of 20 worlds with interesting names such as Alhambra, Bak, and Utsi. The goal of the game is to conquer all 20 worlds via military force. You begin the game on Galactica, a mid-sized planet with a modest army, and as you conquer planets you can levy taxes and manpower and use them to fight for you. The next game in the series, Galactic Trader, has a different goal: amass $1 billion. Each planet buys and sells a variety of commodities. They originate at certain planets. The further away from that planet you are, the more you'll be able to realize when you sell it. The elements introduced in Galactic Trader would be seen in nearly every space trading game for years to come. Hidden information, imperfect information, an economy with overhead. Now, obviously this game owes a debt to earlier games, such as Dave Kaufman's Star Trader from 1973. But it does use essentially the same game engine as Galactic Empire. I never played the final 2 games in the series, which were called Galactic Revolution and Tawala's Last Redoubt, but they were variations on the theme of the first game, just with more complex victory conditions. So how do you play this game? Well, most actions are done by giving orders to subordinates. Lieutenant Starbuck is the scout. You send your scouts to other planets, and when they return, many years later, you'll know the population of that planet and its technology level. Primitive civilizations are easy to conquer, problematic, and advanced ones will put up more of a fight. Lieutenant Bayliss manages things on the ground. You can use him to tax the populace, draft people to fight in your army, and to build new spaceships. You can only do these activities once per planet per hyperjump, so a lot of the early game is flying around to primitive planets to recruit manpower, and then flying to technological planets to build ships. Generally, you try to route all these things to a central location. Your navigator helps you actually take your fleet out to conquer worlds, but the most interesting assistant you have, from my perspective, is the Doctor. There's no immediate gratification in Galactic Empire. Most activities take multiple years to complete, so quite often, while waiting for ships to be built, you ask your doctor to put you to sleep for years or even decades. Like most games of the era, there's no in-game help. As a kid, I learned to play it by just experimenting. Apart from the game rules, the game's manual also has a wonderful grid that you can use to draw your own version of the galactic map. So, that's Galactic Empire. It's an obscure game, and most people have never played it. But it's the game that launched Brøderbund software, and it would deserve to be remembered for that alone. But apart from that, I'd argue it influenced 4X games such as Spaceward Ho and Master of Orion, and is also worth remembering for that reason. If you want to play this yourself, the most obvious path forward is to play on a TRS-80 or Apple II emulator. There was also a port of the game to Macintosh System 6, which should work on emulators like Basilisk 2. If you've made it this far, I'd really like to thank you. Making these videos for you has given me something interesting to do while the world is in quarantine. And I really appreciate it when people watch these, or like them, or subscribe to the channel. If you've got another obscure computer game you'd like me to explore, just leave a message in the comments. And if you think you know someone who'd like this video, pass the link on to them so they can check it out too.